I am ready, sir. Love what you said about not coaching at a meet. That's good stuff. It's good stuff.
I'm just going to tell you about any number of things. For 14 years, he, excuse me, last fall, if I keep this up. Also is a certified personal trainer and youth exercise specialist from the National Academy of Sports Medicine. He's been pretty successful over there at Bennett, and he actually gets into the idea of also making better people out of athletes. So he can tell you more about that than I can. So take it over.
Thank you, Coach, and what a great honor it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. What a great honor it is to be here and actually live and in person. I don't have to tell somebody to turn their video camera off. I don't have to tell you to mute yourself, because I sure as heck don't want yourself to mute yourselves, because I got a need to your involvement here today. So thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate it. So it's November. It's 2013. It's the IHSA State Football Playoffs. It's the second round. It's Lincoln Way East playing Plainfield Central. At this particular junction of the game, a running play is called. Lincoln Way East has the ball, and the lead blocker in this case is a young man named Brian Casey. His job is to block the safety coming up to tackle the running back with the ball. So as Brian sprints out in front of the running back, he sees the safety, gets ready to block him, except the dive from the safety, he's trying to get to the running back behind Brian. The crown of this guy's helmet hits Brian in the lower right leg. Brian goes down. He's hurt badly. He's carted off the field and taken to a local hospital where, upon examination and x-ray, his tibia and fibula are broken. He is rushed into emergency surgery where they have to implant 2 titanium rods into his lower leg to keep those bones together. So, needless to say, Brian's season and, well, maybe potentially his football career is over. Brian has to undergo months of physical therapy. And once he is graduated from physical therapy, that is when I have the great honor of meeting Brian. For now, I am tasked with teaching him how to sprint again, because my forte is sprinting and hurdling, because he hadn't done any running since his injury. So after several hard months of training consistently by Brian, he was actually cleared to play football again. So let's move forward. It's now 2014, almost an entire year since his injury. This is Brian's senior year, state football playoffs. Once again, Lincoln Way East, perennial powerhouse, in it, playing Edwardsville, and this time, this is the semifinals. Whoever wins this game goes to the state championship. So it's late in the fourth quarter. Lincoln Way East is down, but they have the ball and they're driving. They get near Edwardsville's goal line. A running play is called, and this time, it's Brian who gets the ball. So as the quarterback tucks the ball into his midsection, he covers the ball with both arms, sprints through the line, crosses the goal line, and it's a touchdown, and the crowd goes wild. They kick the extra point. It's good. Lincoln Way East is now up by a field goal with about a minute left. They got a great shot at making it to the state championship game. Except, well, sometimes a minute can be too long in a football game. On the ensuing kickoff, Edwardsville takes the ball They go on an offensive march, the length of the field, score the game-winning touchdown as time expires. Lincoln Way East loses. Edwardsville goes to the state championship game. Now, even though Lincoln Way East lost the game, this was a huge victory for Brian because he was told he'd never play football again. And he's like, oh yeah? Watch me. And to score a touchdown on your final play as a player, you can't write a script any better than that. And to see the smile on that kid's face walking off that football field for the last time, man, that was priceless. So because of Brian's hard work and effort, he was awarded an NFL Courage Award given to a high school football player who demonstrates great courage while playing the game of football, which Brian certainly did. You guys see that smile on his face right there? That's the same one he had walking off the football field for that final time. Now, Brian went on to Indiana University, got a degree in healthcare management, and now he's going to open up his own State Farm insurance office. So you can say the life of Brian is pretty good. Got the Monty Python reference. Thank you. So the reason why I tell this story is these stories can create great impact and hope. I had to retell this story over the summer. I found out one of my track guys got involved in an extremely serious accident. Injuries very similar to Brian's. Surgery, hardware implanted, the whole thing. And once, the young man's name is Will, once I knew he got home from the hospital, I had to go over and see him. And he had a cast on his leg from his hip to his ankle. And I had to tell him the story because I wanted to tell him, Will, look, if Brian can overcome, so can you. You just got to have the right mindset. And they told him he'd never play football again, and now you know the result. So again, if Brian can do it, so can you. And as I left, he said, Coach, I really thank you for coming over here and telling me that story. And I will be back. And I just found out on Monday, I heard from his mom, he is completely cleared and he is ready to begin track on January 17th. So the kid put his time and his effort in. Now, athletes, sometimes, hey, it's sports, injuries happen. And sometimes injuries can have a pretty detrimental effect, mentally and emotionally, on them. And the one thing that we, as coaches, have to make sure is that there's always that mind-body connection. And those injuries don't have to be as nearly as severe as Brian's or Will's. Sometimes a nagging injury, one that lasts all season, that could be just as detrimental on the psyche of an athlete. And sometimes it's not even a physical injury. Maybe they got stuff going on at home. Maybe a relationship's gone bad. You know, school gets hard sometimes. But we, as coaches, again, have to understand there's always that mind and body connection. We have to make sure that we look at our kids as whole people. I mean, we're here at ITCA, and we go to other clinics and things to improve our knowledge in our events. Again, mine are sprint and hurdling. And we should be doing that because ultimately what we're trying to do is improve our athletes in their events. Because ultimately, you know what? That makes the team better. But we are so much more than the physical aspect of things. So to understand that better, I have 3 specific takeaways for you today in trying to understand these emotions and feelings. Number 1, what in the heck is emotional or mental health, and why does it seem so much worse in the teens of today? Number 2, be a really good observer of our athletes' emotions and feelings. And then lastly, how can we coach to create an environment where our athletes can thrive, not just physically, but emotionally as well? So what in the heck is emotional or mental health? In my preparation for this presentation, and I wrote a companion article for it, if you go on the website, on the notes section where I'm listed, there's an article on there that goes along with my presentation. It's basically my presentation on paper. But I interviewed 2 licensed clinical social workers. Both of them said to a T that mental and emotional health, largely the same thing. They're interchangeable. So you're going to see some of the slides will say mental health. I'll be saying emotional health. But largely, coaches, it's the same thing because it's about understanding feelings and emotions and using them in the world, not just our world, but in the world in which our athletes live. Now, there's a slightly wider scope with mental health, so there's a little bit of a psychological connotation taken to it. But here's what I want everybody to understand. I am a high school track coach. I am not a licensed clinical social worker. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. In no way, shape, or form am I, or anybody else in here, unless you are one of those, are going to diagnose anybody, oh, this kid's got an anxiety disorder. This kid's depressed. That is well out of the scope of what I'm trying to teach and well out of the scope of what we're trying to do as coaches. But we can be frontline people to perhaps see an issue going on with an athlete. I kind of liken it to the fact that, well, I would hope most of us are CPR and first aid trained. And we're not first responders, meaning we're not police, we're not fire, but we could be at an event somewhere, I don't know, a family dinner, out shopping, wherever it might be. Somebody might need first aid or CPR. Hopefully we use those skills because ultimately, hey, we might be able to keep somebody alive until those professionals, again, meaning police and fire, get there to take over. So again, we're not diagnosing anything. We really just want to be really good observers. This is one of the guys I interviewed, Adam Russo, licensed clinical social worker. Adam wrote this book. Now, Adam works in the Naperville and Plainfield area, so he's a local guy. He's been a mental health professional for over 15 years, and he wrote this really great book called Unwritten Rules. In the book, he gives multiple stories, very similar to the ones that he has seen in his practice, and it gives descriptions of issues that are going on within families. And again, it's written for parents and families, but we as coaches could use the same thing because there's a lot of, how many are parents in here? Yeah, we all need help. This is a fabulous book because at the end of every chapter, he gives us tips and knowledge and things that we can use to help our teens or our athletes. It's a phenomenal book. I really recommend it. It's on Amazon. It's a pretty easy read, and the stories are like, yeah, I can relate to that one because they're all real world stuff. So it's a great book. Again, find it, read it. So we knew we had issues. This is prior pandemic stuff. Now, I do not teach at Bennett. I simply coach there. But I know a lot of the coaches who are teachers. And in the years I've been there 14 years, I communicate a lot with them because I want to continue to learn to make myself better, to help my athletes better. Because I only see my track guys during track season. I don't see them much other than that. But these teachers that are coaches, they get to see these kids all the time. So there were some issues prior to the pandemic. They seemed less resilient. They couldn't take constructive criticism. There were some things. So coaches, I want to ask you, because this is going to help me tremendously. What issues have you seen prior to the pandemic? Or did you see issues prior to the pandemic? If anybody would like to share, I'd really like to hear them. I see some heads shaking. Let's see what we got. Any issues prior? Yes, sir. What did you see?
Is overly angry in certain situations.
Really?
Overly emotional.
Okay.
In certain situations, won't go to the lower level, just want to take it up to the
So a lot of extremes, like from almost nothing to like up to 11?
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Negative self-image.
Negative self-image.
Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic? Okay. Any specific examples? Like, again, don't name names, but things that you would see? Yes, sir.
We're usually bigger than everybody else, and so it'd be, it's a self-image on themselves that they can't do something because they're not as fit as other girls, or because they're bigger than everybody else. You know, they're not athletic. So I really stressed on, realizing that no, you're built just for this. This event is built just for you.
Great positive self-talk.
Like this, you were put here to throw, because you can't put a little runner in a throwing event. They won't do it.
Awesome. But great point, because there were issues. So, you know what? Let's really stress out. So, Generation Z, that's the kids we're coaching. That's anybody born 1997 to 2012. Those are the kids that we're dealing with now. And you see, every generation that's alive on the planet today, I'm a boomer myself, but you'll see that Generation Z has the least amount of saying that their mental health was excellent or very good. And again, so this is, again, pre-pandemic. So let's really stress people out, Let's throw a global pandemic on top of everything. Why not? I mean, we're still in it. I've had it twice, so I'm an overachiever. So it's just sometimes what I do. So as you can see that these Generation Z, planning for the future, really difficult. Or it severely disrupted their plans. It's like, oh, but Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Oh, my God. So we're putting another layer of stress. All right, coaches, let me ask you. Again, my wife is a teacher in District 203, so in Naperville, and in my conversations at dinner just about every day, there is an effect going on. So we're about halfway. We've done the first half of the school year. For those of you who are teachers and coaches, have you seen issues now in this first half of the school year? All right, head shaking. What do you got? What have you seen here?
Attendance. Kids are disappearing left and right due to catching COVID, or they're being quarantined for it. I'm teaching 2 sections because I just retired, and this week, just for finals of 48 kids, I probably had at least 13, 14 kids.
Oh gosh, that's a lot. Yeah, so attendance is one. Yes, sir.
I'm seeing lack of maturity as they continue to grow. Like, I have sophomores and juniors who have maturity level of freshmen still instead of growing.
Oh wow, interesting. Oh, see, hands are flying. I love it. Yes, sir. Let's use this side of the room too. Let's balance it out. So really, just not being kind of just dipping the toe in the water instead of just diving in. God, who else would like to share? Let's go in the back right there, the young lady right there. Yes, yes, you. Yes.
Social skills that I think right now you can't be an adult person. I'm saying come see me and I'll get you know.
Oh God.
Just face to face and you can see if you ask the question, they're gonna give you the answer that they want.
Oh wow. So when they do communicate, they just kind of candy code it, and it's like instead of really saying what they'd like to say. Oh wow. Awesome. Thank you. I'll tell you what. Let's move on. So one thing I want to note: there is no session after this one. As long as you guys want to stay and talk, man. I could talk this all bloody day. It's great. So it's kind of great being here. So again, we know we got issues going on in the world today. And I would already say, coaches, you guys are already great observers. You're already noticing these issues in your athletes. So I thank you for that, because this is going to make me better once my season starts. And had I been a better observer a few years ago, I could have headed off a huge problem I had on my team. I still remember it. 2017, we were at an indoor meet at Plainfield South. I'm walking across the field house. This gentleman comes up. Never met him before. He was the dad of one of the guys in the throws group. And he proceeded to tell me, well, his son was being verbally abused. Needless to say, my jaw hit the floor, and that just stabbed me in the heart. My greatest thing as a coach is to give my athletes a great experience. Period. It's about the kids. And when they're not, oh my God, I felt terrible the rest of that meet. So in the discussions, he told me what they were saying. And, it was really bothering his son, but his son wasn't stepping forward and saying anything. I had no idea. And my throws coach didn't have any idea either. And this is a rare thing. We had like 20 guys in our throws group. Have you ever had that many in a throws group ever before, Coach? Okay, yeah. So for us, that's pretty rare, but as sneaky and secretive as, well, high schoolers can be, no idea. So I told the dad, I said, sir, I'm sorry that's happening, and I assure you we will fix the problem. So my throws coach at the time, his name is Tim Cedarblad. Tim, Hall of Fame coach, great guy, great knowledge. He's retired, so he's not coaching with me anymore. But when he was working, Tim was a dean, and he dealt with issues like this. I had never dealt with something like this before. So I really relied on his expertise to help me. So in our conversations, we came up with a two-part plan. Number one, he was going to have sit-down conversation with the young man who was getting the verbal abuse. Now, this young man had no idea what was coming. He simply thought they were going to talk about his athletic performance on the team, which, by the way, he was becoming one of my better throwers. He was really, really good. And when Coach told him, the tears coming out of his eyes, Coach said it was like rain. So was it an emotional meeting? Yep. But the young man felt so much better afterwards because he was able to get it off his chest, finally. He was just simply trying to man it up, tough it up. And that's really not the right thing to do anymore. So the second part of the fix-it equation was we were going to have a closed-door meeting with the rest of the throws group, minus the young man who was being verbally abused. Same thing, I let Coach Cedarblad take the bull by the horns, if you will, and he proceeded to talk about a family member who was bullied during his time in high school. And it was a serious situation. It involved police, legal action. It was just ugly. And then I started to talk about a family member of mine, my brother actually, who was bullied throughout his entire life at school. And, it has left some emotional and mental scars on him, unfortunately. But after all the stories and letting them know that this was becoming an emotional burden on this young man, we never had another problem the rest of the season. They were able to communicate. It's one of the positive ways to be able to deal with stress. Instead of telling us something that maybe we want to hear, be honest about their feelings and open up. So that's a really important thing. Communication is a great positive way to deal with stress. Now in this situation, this young man had his dad step in because he cared about his son, because of the emotional abuse he was taking, and he saw it was affecting him. And we certainly hope that all of our athletes have a great support system at home, mom and dad certainly, but maybe it's grandma or grandpa, but maybe it's a counselor or a teacher at school. But what if they don't, coaches? Maybe it's us. Maybe we're the ones that get them through what they're going through. And you see this quote from Harvard, all they need is one committed, stable, supportive adult in their life to make the biggest difference. Just one. And what a great honor that would be, to be part of that, to be able to, again, shape, mold, steer, guide somebody in a positive direction. Positive self-image, like Coach said in the beginning. That's a wonderful thing. And I thank you for doing that. I talked about being a good observer. The list is long about possible behavioral changes you might see in your athletes. Again, coaches, we're not diagnosing anything. We want to be a frontline person, to be more noticeable about changes in our athletes' emotions and feelings. I simply chose these 4 because these are extremely observable by us. And again, in the earlier commentary from you guys are already really great observers, and we just need to continue to get better at that. So again, if you see changes like this, and if you see them for about 2 weeks straight, so again, when I talked to those licensed clinical social workers, both of them said, if you see changes like this for about 2 weeks straight, we got a problem. And that's where an intervention might be needed. And it could be just a simple conversation. Hey, see, you've been missing some practice and some school. You know, your athletic performance or grades are going down. Again, being that one person to be stable and supportive in their life. And then maybe now we can involve more people. Maybe mom and dad don't even know. But maybe we got to steer them to a counselor at school who might be able to maybe steer them towards a mental health professional. So important to observe and watch. Kids are dealing with stress in so many ways. And in this slide from the American Psychological Association, this is where I got a lot of my information for my presentation, a lot of professionals. What I want to deal with first is the technology side of things. Coaches, I don't have a problem with technology. I don't. It's in our work. It's in our play. It's in the kids' school. The issue I have is the amount of time being spent on technology and what they're doing. And let me ask you, coaches, how many hours a day are our kids online? Just raise your hand, shout it out. What do you think?
6 to 10 hours.
Who said 6 to 10? 6 to 10? What else? What are your guesses? 15? That's a pretty good guess. I could be like a guy at an auction. All right, we have 8 to 10, 8 to 10. We have 15, 15. What else do we have? What else? Other guesses? 8 hours a day is the average in the studies that I read. One study from the UK said it was 10 hours a day. No matter how you slice it, folks, kids are spending a ton of time online. And what is the number one thing they're doing? Well, it does add up to nothing, I think, in some regards, Coach. What is the number one thing they're doing with technology, with their phone? Has to do with communication. Texting and chatting. Now you see, by a large margin. And now you see the other things that they're doing online and the corresponding percentages that go with it. So this is the stuff that adds up to that 8 to 10 hours a day. That's a lot of bloody time, man. Anybody see this documentary? Raise your hand. Who's seen this documentary? I watched it in preparation for this. I was like, oh my God. The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. Very telling that all of these and I say former executives of all the social media companies, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, former executives, because they see what they've been doing. This documentary shows how the social media companies are keeping people, not just teens, people addicted to social media. This is the biggest reason why our kids of today, Generation Z, have the emotional issues they have. Watched it. It's about an hour and a half long. After I got done, I was like, yeah, no different than the big tobacco companies of the day, keeping people addicted to that. Even today, big pharma, food. I won't delve into a big conspiracy theory right now, but hey, there's a lot of things going on that we can change. What can too much screen time do? Coaches, too much screen time. How can it negatively affect our athletes of today? What do you think? So, almost the number one thing I would say. What else? Sleep? Attention span's shorter, yes. What else? In the back, yes, sir.
With my guys,
when they're together. Like, holy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard a term.
Yeah, you can't get along in cafeteria because you gotta sit next to each other. If you guys are best friends, you could, text each other.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
Oh, I've seen it too in the circle of people, I joke about, hey, you guys texting each other? They go, yeah. It's like, oh my God. I was joking. So here's a good line. We're communicating, we're not connecting. So here's what it can do. We certainly don't want it interfering with what we do. Exercise and sports, because I'm going to talk about how important this is to positively deal with stress. You guys just talked about it. Communication, not through a text or a chat. This is becoming a lost art. It's about being in the same room with somebody, looking at them eye to eye, face to face. Now, we got the masks on, so you can't see some of the facial expressions, but that's what you miss. You don't see any changes in somebody's facial expressions. You can't get that through a text or a chat. What about changes in inflections in their voice? Well, I sent the text in all capitals. Didn't that mean I'm mad? It's like, you don't get that same connection. So yeah, communicating is a big problem. I have 2 daughters. My oldest one is 31. My youngest is 26. When they were in high school, hey, trust me, they had periods of time. They're dating guys. They wanted to break up with them. My wife and I both said to them, if you're going to do that, do it in person. Do not do it over a text. Do not do it over instant messenger or whatever way you want to communicate. You got to look at them. You got to confront them eye to eye because that's a skill you got to have in life. And they did it. As hard as it was, they did it. And you guys said it, sleep. If you want to, this is what I talk about my athletes all the time. If you want to improve yourself academically, athletically, get good regular sleep. I know what I'm like. If I don't have enough sleep, I'm a Frankenstein, man. I am not a good person to be around when I'm tired. So I make sure I get my sleep on a regular basis. So let's go back to this slide. But now we're going to delve into our wheelhouse, coaches. Exercise and playing sports. What I want you to read is the fine print on the bottom. What does it say? Missing. Saying your prayers, reading the Bible, communicating to your parents. What? And then that last one, teens need help. Choosing positive ways to deal with stress. That's our wheelhouse, coaches. This is the greatest thing we get to do. Because athletes deal with, at least in this case, in this slide, can deal with stress, in this case depression, better than non-athletes. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. You see the drop in the percentages with athletes versus non-athletes. So many great positive things go on with exercise, exerting yourself. What about all those wonderful, wonderful natural chemicals we have within us? All it takes is a little effort to waken them up. You want to regulate your mental health? Hey, let's get some serotonin pumping into our body. What about the endorphins? You guys have heard the runner's high? It's most associated with distance running, but it doesn't matter what your events are. Sprints, hurdles, distance, throws, jumps, whatever. If you exert yourself enough, you're going to get that same type of high. I don't know why people do drugs, drink alcohol to get, man, you tap into exercise. That's my number one thing for stress is exercise, and it works every time. It never lets me down. And this is the thing that we get to do, coaches, is to shape, guide, mold, steer kids in this direction. Cortisol, important hormone for performance, and it's built into us naturally, genetically. The fight or flight syndrome, you guys have heard that fight or flight syndrome? Well, we're not cavemen, we're not fighting off saber-toothed tigers anymore. So if you're in a chronic state of stress, you have a tight deadline at work, same thing, you got things going on at home, whatever, multiple stressful things. If you stay in a stressful state chronically, that cortisol level stays high. And what that cortisol is going to do, it's going to suppress your immune system. It'll break muscle tissue down. It'll break down connective tissue. It's a recipe for disaster. So by exercising yourself hard enough, you actually can lower those cortisol levels. You want to improve your mood? Get moving. So again, tap into the natural chemistry we have in our body to deal with stress. What about the physical? The positive physical things that exercise and sports give us. Coaches, what are some positive things through physical activity? Let me know. Feel absolutely strong, whether it's you're getting better in your event or you're in the weight room getting stronger. Man, that's awesome. Pumping yourself up, it's fantastic, right? Yes, sir, over to you.
Overall confidence, whether it's strength or something else.
Absolutely. Yes, all the way in the back, sir, yes.
Think more clearly.
Pardon me?
Think more clearly.
Yes. That's why I have to exercise. For me, I got to clear all this muck and crud out of my brain. So yes. What else, coaches? What else you got? There's so many positive things. Let's see what we got. Hey, this is number one thing. Why we're here at ITCA? Improving athletic performance. And if they're improving athletic performance, hey, maybe their body types are changing. Maybe they're losing some body fat, gaining some muscle mass. Again, to be truly pumped up, that's what you want. It has to do with body image. Coach, you mentioned that earlier, having positive body image to be able to, again, change the structure of your body. And what about that? Lovely sleep. You want to sleep better? Get tired. How many hours are our athletes supposed to have, coaches? In that 8 to 10 ballpark. Thank you, sir. Now, are they really getting it? Well, I can tell you my conversations with my Bennett boys, it's like, oh, what time did you go to bed tonight? Oh, midnight, 1 o'clock. What are you doing? Oh, playing video games, doing homework. One of the things I talk about a lot, and all we can do is keep talking about it. Better time management skills. Guys, again, hey, we've all been sucked into the rabbit hole of social media, haven't we? Oh, let's just see this cute video, and then 2 hours later, it's like, oh, God, I didn't get done what I was supposed to. So time management is a huge thing also to be able to get better sleep. But at exertion, physically, I sleep so much better on days I work out, for sure. This is what I miss the most, coaches, over the last 2 years. God, I'm happy to be here, to see y'all, and I am so happy to be having a full track season. Because this is what I miss the most. I miss seeing my coaches every day and the witty repartee that we have between us. And then seeing the boys every day. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Any tough classes you got going on? How's the family? How's the dog? I mean, it's just all this socialization that I miss. This is what affected me the most. I know I struggled. Who struggled a little bit during the pandemic? Well, we're still in the pandemic. How many have struggled, like emotionally, mentally? That's a pretty good amount. I did. But we got through it, and here we are, getting smarter about the things we need to do. These 3 things, really important in regards to being able to get along well in life. And this is the great thing about being back at it and seeing our athletes on a regular basis. I mean, I'm so excited to have that going on. I've lost sleep over it sometimes because I just get so excited about it. Because this is one of the things, exercise and like coaching are like my 2 main things to keep me sane. And that's what I missed about not being able to coach. So that's why I ramped up the workouts to try to balance things out because I was going nuts. So we got the positive chemical, physical, social aspects of playing sports and exercise. A great formula to get through life. Because I really, truly believe sports is a microcosm or mirror of life. Coaches, let me ask you, how many of you have a completely stress and worry-free life? By a show of hands, if I could pan the camera back, not a single hand goes up. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. In that earlier slide, all the different generations, that you saw, again, dealing with mental and emotional health, we all had stuff. Life is not sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. It can sometimes be a really mean, nasty place, and it'll beat you to your knees and keep you there if you let it. We just have to develop the right skills. It's not so much what happens to you, it's how you deal with what happens is the most important thing. And those are the things that we get to talk about with our athletes on a regular basis. Success described many different ways. If I asked every one of you, how do you describe success? I think in America, largely it's in our DNA. It's just been, it's something that I was taught growing up. You work hard. I mean, it's all tied to a result. You got to go to college, get a good job. You got to make a lot of money. You buy the big house, you get the nice car. You get all the stuff. In sports, you want to run a sub 1100, let's say. You want to throw the shot 50 feet. You want to win a conference championship. You want to be an all-state athlete. You know what? Sometimes we don't get that. And we don't always get what we want in life, despite the fact of the time and the efforts we put in. It doesn't always work that way. So it's to be happy, you have to be successful. Let's flip that paradigm. This gentleman, a Harvard professor, Sean Achor, wrote this book called The Happiness Advantage. It came out in 2010. I read this book. It changed the way I think about coaching, getting rid of the result-oriented mindset. To be successful, you have to be happy first. Totally different paradigm than what we grew up with. Most of us, I know, again, I did. He has so many examples of flipping the paradigm. Again, being happy first to be successful. And it isn't just about athletics. It's in all realms of life, your work life. You want a better relationship? Get happy first. Do you want to perform better and athletically? Be happy first. Because what we miss sometimes is the journey, the struggles, the things that we have to go through to get to, we hope to get that result, but maybe we don't. But if we focus on the process and how to get there, life becomes a little bit better. Now, my personal philosophy, everybody's a little bit different, and it should be. I have coached largely how I have parented. I already mentioned I have 2 daughters. My oldest one is 31. She's married to a great guy. My younger daughter is 26. She has been dating a guy for about the last 4 years, hopefully to get engaged this year, but I never asked the question. Never asked. Same with my older daughter and my son-in-law. Even before my son-in-law was my son-in-law, I told him, Mitch, I will never ask you when I'm going to have grandkids. Because my dad and my father-in-law used to do that. I hated that. I let them live the lives they want. They're both in the medical professions. They are very confident. They are intelligent, hardworking, and extremely self-confident young women. And they're out there in the world doing great things. And let me tell you, empty nesting is really awesome. So we never have to worry about them. Well, my wife does a little bit, but that's the mom side of things. But the time and effort that it takes to be a parent, it's a lot. Oh, my God. Again, how many are parents in here? Show of hands. That's a lot of you. How hard is parenting? To me, 2 hardest things you'll ever do in your life, parenting and relationships. I don't care if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Those 2 things, not easy. But if you do them right, oh, my God, life is phenomenal. It's awesome. Now, I'm definitely different coaching now than I did. Again, I've been at 14 years. So I've learned a lot more. I mean, obviously, in my events, sprinting and hurdling. But as a head coach, to be able to know issues that are going on within the team. And in my time as a coach, and this correlates back to life because it ain't all perfect, we can support our athletes. And in regards to parenting and coaching, I think you have to be a little bit relatable. You have to be likable, but not to the point where you are their buddy or their pal. If you do that, you lost them. Because we, as coaches and parents, we are authority figures. We're the ones that are shaping, guiding, molding, and steering people. Again, we can listen to our athletes, we can encourage them, support them through good times and bad. And sometimes there's tough love. I can think of several times in my 14 years, I've had some very serious conversations with my athletes. Some of them have resulted in suspensions from the team, and some of those have been a removal from the team. And those are hard decisions, but because of their actions, that was the result. So again, as sports mirrors life, you're going to come across this stuff. They're going to come across this stuff. And I'm very open with my athletes. So again, everybody has a different philosophies, a different way to coach. And again, it should be. I'm very open about my personal life. Inevitably, somebody new on the team every year asks me, Coach, you must have been this great athlete in high school and in college. I go, I could have been. I didn't have the mental maturity in high school to do that. I had the ability. I just didn't have it up here or in here at that time. And by the time I rolled on my junior year, I went to Lisle High School, I was majoring in cars and girls. So it's not all bad because I still got the car and I married the girl. So it's not bad. But it's the things that are relatable potentially to them. But I also add, I gained that mental maturity later in life. And I still use it today at 61 years old to continue to improve myself. Because I think I got another 40 years on this planet, at least. And it's just being on this planet as long as possible to make the biggest difference in somebody's life in a positive way. And I'll be honest, I don't have many of my track athletes go and run collegiately. I've had a handful, and only one guy's gone to D1, to Villanova. Not many. Usually when the high school career is over, that's it. It's over. And so what if they don't go? Athletic careers all end someday. And what's left? What do you leave them with? Lessons of resiliency, how to be independent. Adam Russo, that licensed clinical social worker, wrote that book on written rules. I had a sit-down meeting with him. I was very gracious that he allowed that to happen. When we left, he said, Brian, the best thing we can do to create better people in the world is to make them better leaders. If we make them better leaders, they're going to have a much higher success rate in life. And again, paint success any way you would like. But again, it's these lessons that we get to teach along the way, again, to make them successful. I'm not going to get largely into my physical training. That's a whole different presentation in of itself. But what I will tell you, coaches, I am very conservative when it comes to training athletes. They're kids. They're teenagers. They're not in college. They're not professional athletes. I don't beat the crap out of them. The last thing I want a kid to do is come to practice and say, oh, God, Coach Quick, he's just going to run the hell out of us. I don't want that. I want them to come and enjoy. I tell them, look, we're going to work hard, but we're going to have fun doing it along the way. It's the journey. It's that process that we're trying to put into the way. Now, at Bennett, my group, again, sprints, hurdles, and the jumpers as well, we practice 6 days a week. The reason why we do that is on Saturdays, that's the only time we get our gyms. We have a large gym and a small one. The small gym, because we don't have a field house or anything like that, you got to be very creative. And I'm sure a lot of you have to deal with the same issues. But that gym space provides us a lot of great time to do our technical work. So the sprints and hurdles are in the large gym, And then the field event folks are in the smaller gym. And we have it for 2 hours, 7 to 9 in the morning. So you can imagine getting up early on a Saturday morning, an extra day. Some of those kids come walking in like Frankenstein. Oh, God, coach, I'm so tired. Well, let's get physical. Let's wake up. So what I've tried to do, and we have done, I let the guys come up with themes for these Saturday practices to make it fun. So we've come up with like pajama day, favorite sports teams day, superhero day. As you can see, some of them really get into it. This kid wore that costume the entire time. The only thing I was surprised he didn't have, web shooters. How he was able to go through with that, wearing that mask the whole time was hilarious. So superhero day, Hawaiian theme, a great one. So the kid you see holding up the pineapple next to me right yonder, the pineapple was his prize for winning best costume. Costume was a grass skirt. Thankfully, he did have shorts on underneath. He had a Hawaiian shirt, a lei around his neck, and he got to get up super close to see it. He made a real coconut bra. Out of a real coconut. He went to the store and made a bra out of it. And you should have seen the looks on the coaches when he walked in. They're like, Matt, what's going on? And I have videotape of this somewhere. I still laugh at it. So he's a sprinter. He's doing block starts, and he's coming out, and those things are just bouncing around all over the place. Oh, my God. So Matt, Patch, he's the kid wearing the Spider-Man costume, too. So this guy really got into it. And he was so upset, he wanted to win best costume for this one. And the winner, we got a Flash doll. So it's a sprinting thing. What the heck? So we do one big community event. We give back to the community. We go to North Central College in Naperville. They have a huge, beautiful field house, which is awesome for an indoor meet, by the way. We help feed my starving children. It is an organization that puts together meal packets that get distributed worldwide, and yes, here in the United States as well, for kids who are starving on food. Well, I go in with the entire team, like 70 guys. The field house is empty. By the time we finish 4 hours later, every single station is set up for these volunteers to come in to put together these meal packets. It's awesome. We get back to Bennett, parents put out this huge spread, this brunch. Oh, man, it's awesome. And we're having fun while we're doing it. Here's some guys goofing around, just having a good time. But 4 hours, it's a long little bit of time. And again, it's not just Bennett. I mean, there's volunteers from all over the area, it's a beautiful thing. You get to meet some really beautiful people doing some really positive things in the world that helps the world. I look at coaching as this is one of the things we can do to make the world better. I have great support from my athletic department. And, oh my gosh, one of the best things, great parental support. In all my 14 years I've been there, there's always been parents that step up to help. Whether we need equipment, whether we need to get new uniforms, whether, again, help with our senior banquet, with the plaques and cookies and all kinds of things. They do it all. Any way I can get rid of some administrative stuff? Oh, the administrative stuff is fun, isn't it, head coaches? Oh, man. It's just stuff you got to do. But if you can delegate that to somebody else, oh, it's beautiful. And they provide some great support for us, and I'm very thankful for that, and I hope you guys get the same. At our season end banquet, and coaches, as I'm going through this stuff, it's just stuff that I have done. I hope that maybe it sparks some thought in your own minds. Use some of these things if you would like, fantastic. But if it creates some activity in your mind to think of something else you can do positively for your team, that's a beautiful thing. I do not give an MVP award. Everybody knows who the high performers are. They get the accolades. I give out this Tran Hardest Working Man Award. It's named after these two guys, Andrew and Tim Tran. Andrew's the older brother. He graduated in 2016. He's in the dark-colored short-sleeve shirt. Got his arm around his younger brother, Tim. These guys were not blessed with athletic talent. They were not overall fast. But you know what they brought? A team-first attitude and a damn good work ethic. These guys worked just as hard as anybody else on the team. And the guys saw that. And these guys earned so much respect from their teammates, despite the fact that maybe they weren't, again, the top performers, but because of their dedication to the team, I know it inspired other guys, even my top guys. Both cases, Tim and Andrew were captains for me their senior year, despite, again, not being the top guys. Although I will say, Andrew, the older one, he would run any sprint event I told him to do. And he would do it to the best of his ability. I took him to invitationals. I took him to the state meet in 2016 because I felt he deserved it because of the time and effort that he put into the team. And his younger brother, Tim, took it a step further. Finding a way to help the team, what did he learn to do? Pole vaulting. The most difficult, dangerous event in track. And he learned it from his sophomore year to his senior year. His junior year, he went 8 feet in the pole vault. He scored 1 point at the conference meet. We needed that point to win conference. A year later, his senior year, he went 10 feet. 2 feet he gained in a year because he worked his butt off. He finished second at the conference meet, went 10 feet. 8 points, I'm taking that, baby. So it just goes to show it's not about the high achievers. You don't discount the late bloomers. You got to look at, again, I talked about it, looking at athletes as a whole person. Who cares if they don't run a 10-500? Who cares if they don't run? I mean, do I love that great athletes? Hell yeah. But you got to look at everybody. It's that improvement you see from the season to season and from year to year. Oh my God, I'm sure coaches, you have many stories of fabulous transformations in people. Again, from their confidence abilities and seeing their physical stature grow. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I give all my seniors a book at our banquet. This is the one I gave them last year, Make Your Bed, written by Admiral William McRaven, a former Navy SEAL. This book came out of his 2014 commencement address at the University of Texas. How many have viewed it? It's been viewed, I don't know how many millions of times. I've watched it 1 million times myself. He talks about the time in the Navy SEALs, baddest of the bad, and the principles and lessons that he learned, and he put it to book. We can use those same principles and the things he learned in our own lives. So again, that was the book I gave my seniors last year. I also write them handwritten thank you cards for their time that they were with us at Bennett Academy. And it takes me, depending on how many seniors we have, a long time, because I don't just sit there and write, oh, thank you, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I really try to put some heartfelt things in there, something maybe that they did positively to help somebody, not just the athletic performance, but maybe something nice that they did for a teammate. And I give them my contact information, because no matter how many years in the future it is, I tell them to contact me if you need anything at all, whether it's a job interview or they want to get into grad school, you know, letters of recommendation, whatever it might be. I could be 90 years old and they still got my contact. Whatever you need, I'll give it to them. So coaches, you've heard what I've done. I need input. This is how we, as coaches, get better. What are some of the things that you have done to create an environment in which your athletes can thrive, not just physically, but emotionally? Yes, sir.
For me, every time my kids race, I always tell every one of them at the end of the race, They could have run the crappiest race ever, but I'm like, hey, great effort, I'm proud of them. And I have a gentleman who is now a junior in college told me, Coach Austin, that you were the only one who ever told me that you were proud of me.
Wow.
I got, to be more mature. Because I had never heard that until I met you.
Wow.
It's powerful.
Yeah. How did that make you feel, Coach?
It's amazing,
That's making the world better.
Athletics is that preparation for everyday life.
Oh, I've loved sports my whole life. I'm very grateful for that as well. Coach.
With throwers, I know we're kind of like off on our own, so I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm open about my life, with all my family, and we close every day we do like a 1, 2, 3 family breakdown.
Nice.
And at first people they just do it and they start, believing it and building into it. And a couple of years ago, I had a girl who was good, but not one of my top ones, who was part of it. Brought up, kind of took the young ones under her wing and everything. Well, a couple years after graduating, she calls me up on the blue and says, like, I didn't know who else to call. So, like, things were going really bad, and she was considering suicide. And she's like, the only family.
What?
Oh
my God.
The only family member I can think of calling was you.
Wow, Coach, I got to shake your hand on that one.
Oh.
Did you guys all hear that? He might have prevented a case of suicide.
And it's just, she's like, I couldn't think of any other family member to call but you.
Wow,
So,
that's
really building that family mentality.
thank you for doing that. That's a great story. Anybody else? I'm sure we got a ton. Yes, sir.
When I first started coaching, I had done club coaching, but when I first started at the high school, first experience I had, one of my best athletes, he had an ankle monitor. The only kid I've ever coached with an ankle monitor.
Oh my gosh.
On his leg. And probably about a month into the season, he had it removed. He came back to practice. I never asked what happened, how did it get on. He came to me one day. He said, Coach, I'll never do that again.
Wow.
I didn't ask him. I didn't ask him what happened. I didn't ask him anything about it. I said, man, that's right. I said, what we do is we fly high.
Nice.
That kid, like I said, was one of my best athletes, team leader, team captain. Never a problem, anything. He's going on into MMA fighting.
Really?
Yeah. But
oh my.
He's an excellent young man, and so I was so proud of that. But I think it was I took it as my time to model something in front of him to push him to the next level, whatever that.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. Who else got a story to share? One more. All right, let me tap you into an organization. I watched a online presentation by a basketball coach. He was a college basketball coach who had dealt with depression his entire life. And he talked about his story. And this organization, and the acronym again is CATCH, so Community Action Together for Children's Health. They're based out of Northbrook, so relatively close, north suburbs. It was just a bunch of parents getting together, talking about their kids' mental and emotional health. And it's grown into this organization. You see the website on the bottom. If you go on their website, they have so many links to papers and videos and things that we, again, whether you're a parent or just a coach, can use to help your kids. Phenomenal organization. I was really impressed with what they're doing. And a lot of it is this grassroots stuff that really starts to take hold and starts to proliferate out in the world, again, creating great people. So to finish up, there's my contact information. If you ever need to chat, again, there's no session after this. If you want to stay and chat, I'll talk your bloody ear off. But what I want everybody to remember, when we leave today, remember the top 3. We know what mental and emotional health is. We know it's a little more perilous in our kids of today. Keen observers, which again I've mentioned, coaches, you already are very good observers, and I thank you for your input because that's going to help me with my athletes. And to finish, making sure, again, we create an environment in which our athletes can thrive, not just physically, but emotionally. And remember, all they need is one stable, supportive, committed adult to make a difference in their life. Are you going to be that one? Coaches, thank you very much. I very much appreciate you all here today. Thank you. Coach, thanks for your input. Man, what a story.
Yeah, well,
Oh, my God.
so this girl,
Oh.
you actually know her. Her dad is
Brian, what's your name? Pleasure to meet you.